Spotlight. I'm your host, Michelle Prince, founder and CEO of Performance Publishing Group, making a difference one story at a time. We'll be shining the light on successful founders, entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders that are getting results and making a difference. We'll talk about how they built their businesses, are creating movements, and leveraging the power of authority in their own lives. Be sure to stick around to the end of the show and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest. Let's get started. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Power of Authority Spotlight, where we shine the light on entrepreneurs, business owners, founders, and leaders that are doing great things. They're sharing their story. They're making a difference. And I cannot wait to introduce you to our guest today because he is doing incredible things and sharing his story. But let me first, podcast is brought to you by Performance Publishing. If you've ever thought about writing a book, check out performancepublishinggroup.com, grab a strategy call, and let's see how we can help you get your story out of your head and onto paper. All right, let me introduce you to my friend, Kirk McCarley. He has, with more than 30 years of executive leadership experience in both public and private sector environments, Kirk has a solid reputation for fostering individual growth and development beyond client expectations. As an executive and career coach, he focuses on desired customer outcomes predicted upon the premise that the individual possesses the ingredients for success. Enthusiastic yet contemplative, determined yet relaxed, Kirk's passion as a coach is to guide clients towards celebrating self-confidence and reaching their full God-given potential. A graduate of the University of North Texas, whoop, whoop, I am too. Kirk is a professional certified accredited coach through the International Coaching Federation. He also holds the titles of Professional in Human Resources and SHRM CP certified. In addition to his coaching roles, Kirk is a production assistant for major sports at ESPN, a certified spinning instructor leading group cycling classes, and an author of a monthly column on leadership, careers, and communication in his local paper. Kirk's been married to his wife, Cindy, for 44 years and has 2 children and 6 grandchildren. The McCarleys make their home in Northwest Florida. And I am so excited to have you on, Kirk. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michelle. What a joy to spend time with you, not only today, but throughout this journey.
I know it has been amazing. And I have to go back to how we met. And I know I wrote about it a little bit in the forward for your book, but just so serendipitous the way it all came together. We did meet on LinkedIn. I think I reached out to you, and with the mutual connection of University of North Texas. But I felt like the more we talked, there was just so much more that we had in common. And so it was just such a delight getting to know you from the very beginning.
That was the attraction, is there was a LinkedIn connection, and I saw McKinney, Texas, and I know where that is. That's down 380 from Denton on the past Trail Dust Steakhouse. And so I want to talk to this person. I saw University of North Texas grad, so there was commonality that was there. But members of the Greek system, not just you and me, but our respective spouses, we met in college. We've got 2 kids. The stars all came into alignment. And I said, I'd like to work with this lady.
Oh, I love it. And we both share a passion for Northwest Florida. You are living in my dream area that I will be in someday, but off near 30A, Florida there, Santa Rosa Beach. So yeah, so many great connections.
It is. And I still invite people to come here in spite of the fact that a hurricane is beckoning us right now. But fortunately, it looks like it's going to pass to the east. It's part of living here. And unfortunately, there are going to be some folks that are going to be impacted. So we'll stand by to see what happens later on today with that.
Yep, I know. And hopefully everything will be okay. But I guess that is something living in Florida, you get used to a little bit. I mean, I can't say get used to it completely, but hurricanes are part of the deal when you're living in Florida.
Hurricanes and sinkholes.
I love it. Well, first, let's back up because your background is actually fascinating. And we also share that passion for coaching and leadership and human resources and all of that. How did you, let's take it way back. How did your career start, and walk us through a little bit of the journey of what took you, how you got to where you are today?
I'm going to go back to University of North Texas State. I think sometimes you think North Texas State Teachers College, Michelle, but it wasn't that long ago. I was kind of a fledgling freshman, sophomore there and connected with some guys who were in a fraternity, and they introduced me to the Greek system. In fact, it's a serendipitous story. I was a gym rat, misplaced my ball in the gym. These guys spent half an hour helping me sink it out and said later, why don't you come join us this evening? We're getting together. I did. There was connection there. And the reason I point that out is my college roommate was broadcast communications major.
Mhm.
He got me involved with my ESPN gig. I eventually became rush chairman of the fraternity, which was my initial introduction into human resources, which was my career to become until I became a coach. And on about November 11th, 1978, there was a young woman that was sitting on the kitchen island, and I met her, and that's who has put up with me for 44 years now. So
Oh.
that's where it all began. We embarked upon our journey together. We've got a couple of kids, six, soon to be seven grandkids, and we had various outposts in Texas on our way towards getting to St. Louis eventually. We moved in 2001 for my HR capstone job. When we were there, we noticed a lot of people driving down to Northwest Florida, and our curiosity was aroused with that. What's here? We visited, we fell in love with it. We could not afford to live here now, but back then the real estate was extremely depressed. We put proposal on a short sale of a home, and the bank dragged their heel, dragged their heel, dragged their heel. There was a little oil spill that BP Amoco caused in April of 2010. And 2 days later, okay, we're ready for you to come. So that was our entry there.
Mm.
2013, I was contemplating where do I want to go next in my career, and I hired a coach myself. About the third meeting I had with him, I said, I want to do what you're doing.
Mm.
And that's when that journey launched. We had another good friend from North Texas who had been encouraged me to consider that for many, many years. She gives me a testimonial in the book. In fact, we've known Karen for a long, long time. And so that was the impetus I needed to jump into that journey. The book, there were three motivations for it. One, I did these blogs to promote my business as a coach. I've got a ton of them. What do I do with them? I had the editor, the publisher rather, of that monthly column that I do. He says, these are pretty good, Kirk. You ought to write a book. And then being statistically minded, I understand about 81% of people have that desire to write a book, but just 1% do. So I wanted to be a 1% in something before I leave this earth. So I've achieved that now.
Wow. And so much there. And I just have to give a nod to Cindy. You mentioned meeting her in college, and I got to meet her a couple months ago when I was in town. And y'all are just such a sweet couple and clearly living your best lives. Like yeah, you just radiate, you both radiate this joy, and it's really contagious. I love it. But let's talk about your book. So first of all, let me kind of set the stage, and then I want you to give us more of the thorough. But the book is called Thoughts for My Kids and Other People's Kids, which I love. And you mentioned you have four kids, did you say, and seven grandchildren, or almost seven grandchildren?
Well, when they were growing up, sometimes I'd have four kids because they bring their friends over.
Oh,
But yeah, last count, I've got two, and I've got a son-in-law and a daughter-in-law. So I guess that's four, and
okay.
then
Well,
six, and then six going on seven grandkids. Megan is pregnant right now.
that's so exciting. Well, the book itself, it's a collection of vignettes on your thoughts and keys for success and things that, you share so much about you and your journey and your thoughts. And I mentioned to you earlier that I can literally hear your voice in these stories, which is really awesome. But tell us a little bit more about the book. Tell us about some of the stories and the impetus. You mentioned that you started with the blog, but where did these stories all come from? And was it one at a time? Did it take you, yeah, tell us more about these.
Well, my prompts come from stream of consciousness, primarily observation. And so it's usually in a moment of vigorous exercise. I cycle a lot and will think to myself, okay, I've got to write a book to promote this. What have I encountered today? What did I encounter 50 years ago that had impact, and maybe something that or someone that I intersect with brings back a memory. So the book began as stories that were going to promote coaching and a thought process, much like I would try to prompt with a client. But then they broadened into so much more than that. People I have observed and maybe worked for or worked with that I had a lot of admiration for and wanted to tell their story as to why. Maybe there's a snippet that the reader can pick up on and relate to and prompts an idea for them to carry out. Maybe little things related to how someone communicated something, a topic, and just very slight, but how they did that so effectively. And then, of course, with ESPN, there are sports stories that are in there based on my experience with doing that, but also personal experience having played sports and some of the rigors that we went through that were not so much maybe lessons for the sports, but lessons for life. I had a coach, for instance, that would cry out, lots will come, few will stay, while we're in the midst of a very harsh drill. But what he was really talking about was life, stick to itiveness, staying with something and giving you the motivation for that. The pain that you're feeling right now is going to pass and you're going to be rewarded by it later. And that's life so often. So it's a series of 77 vignettes that are based on those kinds of things, and then just quirky things like what's in a palindrome. And that was written on 2/2/2 of 2020. I had to address that and examine that topic. So lots of things there that can be all over the place, but I think there's something for everybody. That's why it's my kids, and we're all other people's kids.
Yes. What I really liked about it, one, the stories, they're easy to read, they're fairly short, but what I liked is you really combine them into different categories. So like to your point, anybody can gain inspiration, information. There's a lot of value for pretty much everyone here, but the categories of work and career is one. And then within each of these main categories, you have lots of different subcategories. Communications, which we all need help with, right? And then balance and time management, which, so again, it isn't just for your kids, it's for everybody. But I love the way you put it all together and made it easy to, if you're in the mood for, I need a story on decision making or career lessons or something like that, you can just jump right to it, which is really, really nice.
You're right, Michelle, and almost a reference manual in some respects of I'm facing this situation, this point in life, this crossroads. Might there be something there that I can pick up on and learn from? Communications, for instance, there's a story that I share with a mayor in the community that we lived in. We lived in Kerrville, and the mayor there at Kerrville, Texas, in the Hill Country, the mayor at the time had a political ally that he was working alongside of who had some interpersonal challenges as far as being able to communicate effectively with people and not show anger, quite frankly. And the mayor took a very interesting approach to how he dealt with that and how he got the person to open up to what their flaw was. So, again, a little touch of communication, how he did that well, that can benefit any of us.
Mhm. So of all the stories, do you have a favorite? And if so, which one?
Early in the book, it's talking about how I determined not to go in sales. Although I learned later we're all in sales of some kind. We're just maybe not selling Thin Mints as I was when I was 8 years old as a Cub Scout going door to door in Fort Worth, the city that I grew up in. And it was about the 30th or 31st house I come to, and the box tore, Thin Minutes spill all over this neighborhood in the TCU area. And I just sit down on the curb in my Cub Scout uniform, just crying my eyes out. I gather everything up, go home, talk to my mom and say, I don't want to go into sales. And I can still remember that frustration now. A lesson I learned, a very poignant one at that point in time. But you know what? I came back to revisit it and learned I'm not selling these thin mints door to door, but I'm selling some kind of product. It's myself, it's my service, it's now this book.
Mm.
And I love that story because it was so humbling and humiliating at the time. But I cried a lot as a kid.
I think everybody did. You know, and what you said about not wanting to be in sales, it reminds me of when I was younger too. I would say the same thing. I don't think anyone grows up saying, I want to be a salesperson because I had like maybe a negative connotation of them. But I do remember Zig Ziglar, when I worked for him, he did say everyone is in sales, right? And every word we speak, every action we take, we're selling who we are to other people. But one of the best definitions I heard too, one was sales is a transference of feeling. So if you feel that you can help somebody with whatever it is you have, you're just passing on that feeling. That's sales. But then the second definition I love is that sales is service. And I think everyone wants to serve somebody else. We don't necessarily want to sell somebody else. So if it's just shifting it a little bit, but most people deal with that later in life, and you dealt with it when you were 8.
And probably dealt with it at other times, but that was the one that reminds me the most.
Hmm.
The other thing that I've maybe learned, and the book helped me to put it in writing, we talk about communication. This was when we were in St. Louis. I was part of a men's group studying the Bible, I guess. And there were 8 members of the group, one of whom conducted about 50% of the verbal conversation. The other 6 of us, and I've left one out, was the other 49%. The one percenter, come to find out later, was the pastor who actually began this church, but he was incognito in his role. He was already suffering with Parkinson's disease, but he would speak maybe once or twice during these meetings, but what he would say was so impactful. And so it taught me the lesson of observation, listening well, and making sure that when you do say something, it's going to be of substance and people are going to remember it.
That's so good. Reminds me, do you remember the commercial a long time ago when about E.F. Hutton? When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen or something like that.
And they freeze too.
You freeze.
They freeze too. They don't move when E.F. Hutton's speaking.
So true. Let's talk about your coaching, since this is something, and just I feel like I've known you a lot longer than I actually do, but you have this natural ability to coach, even like it's just kind of part of your personality. You were even so kind and gracious to coach my son, my youngest son, with some of his career ideas and all of this. Where do you think this passion for coaching came from? And tell us a little more in addition of how you are coaching others and how you can help possibly those listening.
Well, first of all, we are built, each of us, I believe, around relationship.
Yeah.
And who do we connect to? What are the areas that we have those connections? Now, you and I have a lot, but maybe there's someone in a different country. I was talking to somebody last night in Berlin, for instance. What is and he's from Nigeria originally. What is our commonality going to be? Berlin, Nigeria, soccer. We talked about football and connected with him when I asked him the question, so is it Nigeria or Germany that you cheer for? And I could just feel that synchronicity kick in. So that's where it begins for me and with coaching clients, because based on relationship, we can build a relationship on trust as well. You're hearing me, you're listening to me. I can tell, I feel comfortable, I can open up about what it is that I want to explore and get into a better place with. So for me, that's where it all originates. And from then, a high amount of listening goes into it. Like the former pastor that was there, a successful coaching meeting, I'm going to not do 80% of the talking, and I want the other person to be doing that.
What kind of coaching do you do most? And give us an example of the type of people that you help through coaching. Like you mentioned the man from Nigeria, but who else and what are these business owners? Are they individuals, men, women?
There are business owners, but there are also people who are working in organizations, maybe who want to find other opportunities. There was a woman I was working with a couple of years ago, and what I was so thrilled about with her, she not only got the position she wanted to get and increased her income significantly, but each of the meetings I would have with her, I saw growth, I saw expansion, I saw opening up. And now we're connected on Facebook. And this is not the person I started working with. It is so rewarding to watch that happen and to be a part of it. Of course, I get remuneration for coaching. I'm in business to do that, but that's worth more than all the gold in the world. This fellow that I was talking to yesterday from Europe, he too wants to advance in his career. And so it's identifying what are the assets, the uniqueness that he presents to have impact on others to get him to where he wants to be in place. That's the challenge. The reward is when you see them get to that place based on something they already knew, but you ask the right questions to pull that out of them.
I think, and you said it perfectly, that it is about asking and pulling it out because a lot of times the answers are within us. We just don't always think they are. But do you think you also maybe have a gift of seeing things in people that either they're not ready to see yet, or like do you? I sense that you get maybe a little bit of that, like where you can see someone's potential, probably.
I just read a book. I'm going to make a plug for it. You may have as well, called The Noticer by Andy Andrews.
Oh, I love it.
And it's a story about a guy who we don't know where he comes from. For the most part, he is probably homeless, but he just happens to appear on scenes that are kind of like vignettes of people that are in a struggle, they're in a crisis, and he basically coaches them through that by looking at things a little bit differently than what they would ordinarily. The first person he encounters is homeless. And that individual is supposedly predicated upon Andy Andrews himself, where he may have been or felt he was at that point in time, and how he helps him propel out of the situation that he's in. I want the character's name is not Mr. Jones, but it's just Jones. I want to be Jones. I don't want to be homeless, but I want to have that kind of an impact in a way that's not really giving advice, but helping people to realize their own innate value and to then act upon that.
So I love that, and I feel the same way. Somebody said it once that the good coach can help see. A lot of times, other people can see things in you you're not ready to see in yourself yet. And I've had that many times in my life where somebody would say, you should do this, or you should. And I'm thinking, me, especially when I was younger. But so yes, there's the coach on business and all, but there's also just, I think it boils down to just encouragement of, you do have everything you need within you already to be successful. We just need to help you see it and believe it and hold on to it. And so I can see you doing that with your clients. I could totally see you doing that.
I wanted to play in the NBA. I discovered early that wasn't going to happen, but where God redirected me to is working for ESPN. I'm a member of the Football Writers of America Association. I have access to all these events, and I don't have to go through all the training that they're going through and sacrifices to do that. It is wonderful. It's so much fun. It's better than I could have imagined.
Yes, I know your background. You have so many. It's amazing all the things that you do. And you wrote a book, and this book is launching very, very soon. And so while we're going to wrap this up, but give us something to take away with. So the story, I want everybody, by the way, to get the book, and probably the best place to go, Kirk, you would say, would be going to your website, seedsowercoach.com. Is that the best?
Yes, theseedsowercoach.com is my website. I'm also on LinkedIn as Kirk McCarley. I don't think there's anyone else with that name that's out there that's written a book, but I'm often surprised. Or you can go direct. The pre-sales are taking place on Amazon right now. I'll let you plug that. It comes out in a few days.
Well, it is. It is coming out, yes, in just another week or so on October 1st. And it's again, Thoughts for My Kids and Other People's Kids, a collection of vignettes on keys to success. And it's Kirk McCarley, and that's McCarley. So definitely check out that book. I highly, highly recommend it. If you wouldn't mind, Kirk, just wrap us up with what is one final thought, something that you've learned through all the years and all your experience, and then all of these stories you've compiled together. What's the most important thing that you want people to take away from this show and also from your book?
I'm going to go back to what I had said earlier about relationship.
Mm.
Where is there an opportunity for a sacred, I call it intersection? My friend Steve Adams out in California coined that term in the book that he wrote about. And we don't know who we're going to encounter along the way that is going to be that serendipitous connection, such as we've had, that Mitch Albom connection of the 5 people you meet in heaven, that they are going to have influence on you or you are going to have influence on them. So being aware of those moments and celebrating the blessing that can be. I know it has been for me, and I want that to be for so many others that I come into contact with.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm so excited about your book. And thank you so much for being on the show and just all the positivity and hope that you provide in this book. We're so excited for you.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you. All right, everyone, that is it for the Power of Authority Spotlight. And again, go get Kirk's book and find him on LinkedIn, Kirk McCarley. Also checking it out at seedsowercoach.com. And again, the book is Thoughts for My Kids and Other People's Kids. And I just want to encourage everyone out there to we all have a story. We all have the ability to make a difference in somebody's life, but we really need to share our stories in order to really impact the world. So that's it for this show. We'll see you next time on the Power of Authority Spotlight. Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to the Power of Authority Spotlight. If you are a successful founder, entrepreneur, business owner, or leader that's getting results and making a difference, and you'd like to be on this program, please visit performancepublishinggroup.com/podcast to apply. That's performancepublishinggroup.com/podcast. Also, if you got something out of this interview, please share this episode. Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag #ThePowerOfAuthoritySpotlight. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content, so make sure you don't miss any episodes by subscribing. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our websites, performancepublishinggroup.com or michelleprince.com, and follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.